Hey guys, you want to talk timelines? Excellent. Well, let's get on with it then, shall we? With the second installment of. That's right, guys, the Timeline Show. And we're continuing with the Wizarding World timeline. Now, I'm just going to go in one straight filming block here. So, we ended last time in 1899. So we're going to go into the 1900s here. So the 20th century is finally upon us. It's where most of the major events took place. So, let's start in 1901 with the birth of Aurelius Dumbledore to Aberforth Dumbledore and an unknown woman. That will be important information later on, trust me. Also around this time, Leta Lestrange, remember that name, tries to drown baby Corvus for crying too much. And around this time, Albus Dumbledore begins teaching at Hogwarts and becomes Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. Which brings us to the next date of the time. In 1905, Tom Riddle Sr. is born. Now, he becomes the father of Voldemort down the line. So, just keep that in mind. In 1907, Merope Gaunt is born to Marvolo Gaunt and an unknown woman. What a couple of years before that would have been the birth of Morphin Gaunt. Okay, in 1908, Newt Scamander begins his education at Hogwarts and is sorted into Hufflepuff, and at the same time, Leta Lestrange starts her education at Hogwarts and is sorted into Slytherin. Now, in 1914, about 6 years after this event, Newt Scamander takes the fall for Leta Lestrange endangering students and is expelled from Hogwarts, but is allowed to keep his wand. After Professor Dumbledore argues against his expulsion and is unsuccessful in that way. Now, in 1926, we see the events of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them play out. And this is where we first meet Credence Barebone, as is known then. A young wizard who is being forced to repress his magic, or suppress his magic, and as a result, he has become an Obscurial. On December 31st of the same year, Tom Marvolo Riddle is born at a London orphanage to Merope Gaunt. The product of a love potion. The love potion which caused his father to leave him after he found out he was under that. Yeah, so. And Merope dies giving birth to Tom. 1927 is where the events of Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald take place. And this is where we first meet Nicholas Flamel on screen. And get our timeline discrepancy with Minerva McGonagall's birth, where she teaches at Hogwarts before she's even born. How's that possible? Okay. You could chop it up to being a different character with the same name, but it doesn't come across that way. So, on the 6th of December, 1928, Rubeus Hagrid is born to Mr. Hagrid and the giantess Fribwulfa. And in or around the same year, Myrtle Warren is born to Mr. and Mrs. Warren. In 1931, Horace Slughorn begins teaching at Hogwarts and is hired as Potions Master. Around this time, Dumbledore's job has shifted from Defense Against the Dark Arts to Transfiguration. So, yeah, there you go. Uh, 1932 is when the events of Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore take place, and this is where we find out that Credence Barebone was Aurelius Dumbledore, and was in fact the son of Aberforth. Told you that information would be important later. Okay. Now we can assume the rest of the Fantastic Beasts series would have taken place between like 1933 and 1945 or something like that. But we're never going to know now because that film series is cancelled. In 1938, Albus Dumbledore meets a young Tom Marvolo Riddle at the orphanage he was born in and offers him a place at Hogwarts. In the September of that same year, Tom Marvolo Riddle begins his education at Hogwarts and is sorted into Slytherin, quite rightly so. Now, on the 4th of October 1935, just backtracking a little, Minerva McGonagall is born. So, yeah, she's actually born there. Now, in 1940, Rubeus Hagrid starts his education at Hogwarts and is sorted into Gryffindor. Pardon me. At the same time, Myrtle Warren starts her education at Hogwarts and is sorted into Ravenclaw. Okay, now, a major event then happens 3 years later. In 1943, Tom Marvolo Riddle is now a 5th-year prefect, and he opens the Chamber of Secrets, unleashing the Basilisk on the Muggleborns of the school, leading to the death of Myrtle Warren, or Moaning Myrtle as we know her. In the school, in the 2nd floor bathroom. And this also leads to the framing and expulsion of Hagrid on the charge of being the one behind the attacks. Aragog is accused. A little hatchling acromantula. But thanks to Dumbledore's intervention with this, Hagrid is allowed to stay on and trained as gamekeeper. Now, around this time, Tom Marvolo Riddle has created his first Horcrux, the Diary, which he used the death of Myrtle Warren to create. In 1944, Tom Marvolo Riddle murders his own parents, creating the second Horcrux along the way, Marvolo Gaunt's Ring. And this would be after he visits the Gaunt shack, steals the ring from Morphin, and frames him for the murders by using a memory charm on him. Now, around this time, Tom Marvolo Riddle has also gone to Horace Slughorn and asked him about Horcruxes. Oh no, a Horcrux, as we know from the Half-Blood Prince, is an object in which a person has concealed part of their soul, but the way to go about creating a Horcrux is to commit murder. And he basically wants to know if he can split his soul 7 times. Well, okay. In 1945, Tom Marvolo Riddle leaves Hogwarts and this is also the year the famous duel between Dumbledore and Grindelwald takes place, in which Grindelwald is defeated. And of course, Dumbledore acquires the Elder Wand during this. So yeah. Woof, okay. In 1947, Minerva McGonagall begins her education at Hogwarts and is sorted into Gryffindor. But the Sorting Hat has a hat stall, trying to decide between Gryffindor or Ravenclaw, eventually choosing Gryffindor. Yo. Okay. In 1949, or October 1949, Molly Pruitt is born. Now remember that name, because it becomes important later on. Both names, okay. In February 1950, Arthur Weasley is born. Now, here we go. In 1951, Bellatrix Black is born. Somewhere between 1952 or 1953, Andromeda Black is born. In 1953, I'm going to say around the autumn months, Lucius Malfoy is born. So some timelines would put his birth in 1954. Whichever one suits you, I guess. In 1955, Narcissa Black is born. Yeah, the youngest of the Black sisters. Okay, now in 1954, McGonagall graduates Hogwarts and falls in love with a Muggle, doomed, almost realizing that she'd be doomed to repeat what her mother did, calls their engagement with the Muggle off to go and work for the Ministry. Within a couple of years, she's working at Hogwarts in 1956. Okay, so in 1957, Sturgis Podmore is born. Now, he's actually just a minor character who's only mentioned a couple of times in the series. So, make of him what you will. Now, in 1959, Sirius Black and Peter Pettigrew were born. That would have been around the autumn of 1959. October for Sirius. And we'll place Pettigrew around late September to around November or December. We don't know when exactly. Now, in 1960, we get the births of Severus Snape on the 9th of January, Remus Lupin, Lily Evans at the end of January, and James Potter. Now, Remus Lupin on the 5th of March. I might point that out. And James Potter on the 27th of March. And around 1960 or 1961, Regulus Black is born. In 1962, Bellatrix Black starts her education at Hogwarts and is sorted into Slytherin. Around 1963 to 64, I'm going to place the beginning of Andromeda Black's education at Hogwarts. And of course, she would have been sorted into Slytherin as well. At the same time, Ted Tonks started his education at Hogwarts and was sorted into Hufflepuff. Now, of course, though, in 1961, Arthur Weasley and Molly Pruitt both started their education at Hogwarts and were both sorted into Gryffindor. Okay. In 1965, Lucius Malfoy begins his education at Hogwarts. Sorry. And and he is sorted into Slytherin. Of course he is. Okay. I almost forgot to mention, I did forget to mention, in 1962 we see the birth of Barty Crouch Jr. to Barty Crouch Sr. and Mrs. Crouch. 1968 is when we see Sturgis Podmore beginning his education with Hogwarts, but we don't know what house he was sorted into. So make of that what you will. Okay. Now we get into the 1970s, because we're... Now, around 1965, after a 10-year disappearance, Tom Marvolo Riddle resurfaces. I should have mentioned he disappeared for 10 years. As Lord Voldemort. And reapplies for a job teaching at Hogwarts, which Dumbledore has become headmaster, and he turns him down, leading him to put a curse on the Defense Against the Dark Arts position. Okay, now, in 1971, James Potter, Remus Lupin, Sirius Black, Peter Pettigrew, Lily Evans, and Severus Snape all started their first year at Hogwarts. All were sorted into Gryffindor, apart from Snape, who was made a Slytherin. Okay. So 1971 to 78 were their years at Hogwarts. In 1972, Sirius and James work out that Remus is a werewolf, and then they and Pettigrew spend the next 3 years learning how to become Animagi. Now, I need to take a break here to mention what I forgot to mention. On the 29th of November 1970, Bill Weasley was born to Arthur and Molly Weasley. On the 12th of December 1972, Charlie Weasley was born to Arthur and Molly Weasley. Now, in 1975, the Marauders and Snape are in their 5th year at Hogwarts. The Marauders, now, this is when they actually become the Marauders. James Potter, Peter Pettigrew, and Sirius Black have finally learned how to become Animagi and take their Animagus forms, earning their nicknames. Peter becomes a rat, earning the nickname Wormtail. Sirius, a shaggy black dog. Okay. Becoming Padfoot. And James, a stag, becoming Prongs. And around the age of 16, so around this time, Sirius runs away from home. And James's parents take him in as an honorary surrogate son. Now, also around this time, Sirius plays a practical joke on Snape, getting him to go down the Whomping Willow tunnel into the Shrieking Shack to see the werewolf Lupin. And after James hears about this, he runs after Severus and pulling him away in time, saving his life. But was this to save his own neck from expulsion? Or out of genuine human kindness? Okay. Now, In 1977, the gang have now started their 7th year at Hogwarts, and James is now head boy and Lily is head girl. James is head boy despite never having been a prefect beforehand. I'll just point that out, by the way. Now, I jumped ahead, didn't I? Because in August 1976, Percy Weasley was born to Arthur and Molly Weasley. Moving on now to 1976, and we see the birth of Oliver Wood. Also, a year before that, in 1975, Marcus Flint was born. So, yeah. In 1977, Cedric Diggory was born to Amos Diggory and his wife. And October 1977, Angelina Johnson was born. Okay. In 1978, on the 1st of April, Fred and George Weasley are born to Arthur and Molly Weasley. And around this year, I'm going to say Lee Jordan was born as well. But it's unclear whether he was born in late 77 or early 78. I'm going to assume it was this year because it's in the same year as Fred and George. Okay. Now, in 1979, at an unknown point, Alicia Spinnet was born. Cho Chang is also born at an unknown point in this year. On the 19th of September 1979, Hermione Granger is born to Mr. and Mrs. Granger. A muggle born. Yeah, 2 muggles. Now, most of Harry's classmates were born in 1980. Most at unknown dates. Now, on the 1st of March 1980, Ron Weasley was born to Arthur and Molly Weasley. On the 5th of June 1980, Draco Malfoy is born to Lucius and Narcissa Malfoy. Yep. Okay. On the 23rd of June 1980, in the Muggle world, Dudley Dursley is born to Vernon and Petunia Dursley. On the 31st of July 1980, our hero himself, Harry James Potter, is born to Lily and James Potter. A quick side note, the reason J.K. Rowling chose that as Harry's birth date is because that's when she was born. In 1965, though, so, okay. Just thought you'd like to know that. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We don't know when... on the 30th, the day before Harry, Neville Longbottom was born to Frank and Alice Longbottom. Okay, now, I believe it would be something like the 12th of August, or a bit before then, 1981, Ginny Weasley is born to Arthur and Molly Weasley, the youngest of their 7 children. Now, this is also an important year, because on the 31st of October that year, Lord Voldemort, after hearing a piece of a prophecy from Peter Pettigrew, attacks Godric's Hollow, James and Lily's house, and kills James right then and there. But Lily, on his attempt to murder Harry, and after being given the chance to step aside, refuses to do this and throws herself in the way of the killing curse to protect her son, casting upon him the ancient love of magic. And this then leads to Sirius being sent to Azkaban without a trial, and Peter Pettigrew faking his own death by chopping off his finger and turning into his rat form and running away. Okay. And Albus Dumbledore, Rubeus Hagrid, and Minerva McGonagall deliver baby Harry to number 4 Privet Drive, where his aunt and uncle live, thus setting the tone for the story to follow. Okay. So, let's get in then, shall we, to that. In 1982, Death Eaters are rounded up and taken to trial at the Ministry of Magic and sent to Azkaban. Well, let me actually clarify that for you quickly. Well, most Death Eaters are actually able to get off the hook by claiming they were under the Imperius Curse. Bellatrix Lestrange and her husband Rodolphus, brother-in-law Sebastian, and Barty Crouch Jr. are brought to trial for torturing Frank and Alice Longbottom and sentenced to life in Azkaban. And this scandal tarnishes Barty Crouch Sr.'s reputation. Well, about a year into the sentence, she swaps places in Azkaban with her son, polyjuiced into him, and dies in his place because she was already ill, leaving him free but under the Imperius Curse by his father, so not free then. In 1985, Aunt Marge visits Dudley on his 5th birthday. But I forget what gift she brings him, but she actually brings a packet of dog's biscuits for Harry, I think, around this time, and then that's a Christmas. In 1988, Neville's great uncle Algie drops him out a window, causing him to bounce onto their driveway or into their garden, leading him to be put down for Hogwarts. Now, I also forgot to mention that around this time, in 1982 to 1989, were Bill Weasley's years at Hogwarts, where he was a Gryffindor, a prefect, and head boy, got 12 OWLs. 1984 to 1991 were Charlie Weasley's years at Hogwarts. He was in Gryffindor, was a prefect, Quidditch captain but never head boy. And 1987 to 1994 were Percy's years at Hogwarts. Well, we'll get to those eventually, these later years, but his early years, 1987, Gryffindor, worked to be the hardest working student there and the best behaved one. You know how it goes. And 1989, Fred and George started their education at Hogwarts and became Gryffindors. Troublemakers of their generation. Of course, 1986 was when Marcus Flint started at Hogwarts and was made a Slytherin. And Oliver Wood started at Hogwarts in 1987 as well and became a Gryffindor. Cedric Diggory and Angelina Johnson and Katie Bell, I forgot to mention her birth though, was probably around 79. And Angelina Johnson all started their first years at Hogwarts. Cedric became a Hufflepuff while the rest all became Gryffindors. And that would be Lee Jordan there as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention him. In 1990, Cho Chang starts her first year at Hogwarts and is sorted into Ravenclaw. So now we get into the events of the books themselves. So here we go. 1991. The events of Harry Potter and the Philosopher... 1991 to 1992. The events of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone take place. Well, Sorcerer's Stone if you're from across the pond in the US. Idiots. 1992 to 1993. The events of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets take place. 1993 to 1994, the events of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire take place, at the end of which Voldemort makes his full return. He uses Harry's blood as part of his regeneration potion. What an idiot. Okay. 1995 to 1996, the events of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix take place. 1996 to 1997, the events of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince take place. So that's Harry's first 6 years. Oh, that's Harry's years at Hogwarts. 1997 to 1998, the events of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows take place. And what happens there after the Battle of Hogwarts? Well, between 1998 and 2017, that is, Harry and Ginny are married and have 3 children. James Sirius, Albus Severus, and Lily Luna. Ron and Hermione are married and have 2 children, Rose and Hugo. Harry joins the Auror department at the Ministry of Magic. So does Ron for a while, but leaves after a couple of years to go and work with Fred at the Joke Shop. While Harry then becomes the head of the whole of the Auror department. Now, their children, when are they born? Well, around 2002 for James, 2006 for Albus, and 2008 for Lily. As for the other 2 Weasley children, around the same time. For Rose, as one of the older 2, Albus, and probably about 2010 for Hugo. Then Scorpius Malfoy is Draco's son, off through his first year at Hogwarts in 2017 as well. So 2006 for him. And guys, that is actually where I'm going to end the talk on the Wizarding World timeline. It's been a 2-part video thing. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching and have us a magical time.